Welcome to Chiropad TV. This is Dr. Paul Bindell, President of Life Systems Software. It is with great pleasure that we provide you with this segment of our video training series for the ChiroSuite program. This presentation is going to show you how to access and use the patient's diagnosis screen. When you are within the Chiro Office program, you would select your patient and click on the button for diagnosis. That will bring you to the diagnosis screen through Chiro Office. On the other side of the coin, if you are in Chiropad, you would open the patient's account, select the Assessment Diagnosis button, and then click on the tab for Diagnosis Sets, and that will bring you to the same screen that we just saw in Chiro Office. In order to enter a new diagnosis for the patient, the first step is click on the green starburst. That clears the screen of anything that may have been there in the past, and it enters today's date as the date for this diagnosis. If it turns out that today's date is incorrect and the diagnosis should appear related to visits that began a week or 2 weeks or whatever period of time ago, click on the pencil and then you can click into the date field to change it. A single click will allow you to type in a change date. A double click brings up a calendar, and then you simply choose the date that is the correct one for this diagnosis, and it will appear in the box. After you have modified the date correctly, click on the pencil again so that the Established Sets drop-down box is once again apparent. To the right of this, you will also note the Diagnosis Visitometer. This is a visit counter. It allows you to set an expiration date or a number of visits allowed, or both, for this particular diagnosis. If you set the number of visits allowed and also enter a date, again you can either click in and type in or double click and bring up the calendar. Whichever of these is met first will give you a pop-up message telling you that it is time to change the diagnosis. To the right of that is the Diagnosis History button. Occasionally, it is necessary to print out the patient's diagnosis history for an insurance company. You would be able to click on the Diagnosis History button, and that will bring up a list of all the dates and diagnoses which this patient has had in your office. To continue entering the new diagnosis, remember we clicked on the green starburst already. There are 3 methods that you can use. Method 1 is to come into the ID box, click on whichever line is appropriate, click on the drop-down arrow, and then you can scroll through the diagnosis codes, and as you do, you will be able to choose whichever one is the most appropriate, click on it, and you'd be able to do that line by line. The second method of finding the ICD code is to go into the ICD column and click onto an empty line there, get another drop-down box, and select the ICD code on the basis of the code number. And that way, that is entered. However, if you would like to speed up the process, remember that in the diagnosis catalog, you were able to create diagnosis patterns. Once you have your patterns created, you would simply come here, click on the pattern that you need, select the items in the sequence in which you want them to appear on the HCFA form, make sure that your cursor is on the correct line for the diagnosis, and when you click Apply, all of that information will be entered. If it turns out that you have entered a diagnosis incorrectly and you want to remove one line at a time, all you need to do is click on that line and then click on the button that says Delete a Single ICD Code. As soon as you have clicked on that line and then clicked on Delete a Single ICD Code, it is taken off the list. If you need to add to this list, then make sure that the cursor is in the proper location, and then when you click on the diagnosis patterns, you can once again select whatever you need and then click Apply, and it is added to the list. When you are finished with all the diagnosis entries, be sure that you click on the Save icon. Leave the screen without saving. It is as if you never entered the information to begin with. You will note that on the lower left corner of this screen, there is a box for a narrative diagnosis. This is a verbal diagnosis that will appear in your narrative reports, or if you enter special templates into specific letter templates, you will be able to have it appear there as well. This narrative diagnosis does not appear on your insurance forms. Also, note that the first 4 diagnosis codes will appear in box 21 of the current HCFA form, and diagnosis codes 5 through 8 will appear in box 19 as per the insurance company regulations. One other item that you should be aware of is that you do have the ability to look up past diagnoses without printing out a diagnosis history. And that is, come to the box that says Established Sets, click on the drop-down arrow, and you will be able to see the dates of entry for all the other diagnoses that have been entered. Just by clicking on that item, you will be able to see the date on which the diagnosis was entered and what that diagnosis was. This concludes the presentation for the patient's diagnosis screen.
Thank you for watching this training video. Should you have additional questions that were not answered here, please contact support@chiropad.com or call us at 973-625-3716. We will do everything we can to make sure that you get the maximum benefit from using the ChiroSuite programs.